We'll come back. We'll talk some NBA playoff action. Lakers in a little trouble right now, down double digits. Heading towards that fourth quarter. Mikey Domagala going to check in. NBA Buzz. We'll do that when we come back. Keep it right here. 101.5 FM KDAWN. Streaming live on that Odyssey app. Live from PSBR Law Studios. I'm Ken Thompson. You're listening to SportsX Radio. We'll be right back. Without further ado, I welcome in my buddy. Now, I'm really bummed out because Mikey D came all the way out from the Empire State from New York and was hanging in Vegas for a little bit. And I had an obligation during March Madness. I had to be in another state, and it worked out to where I wasn't going to be back in time before Mikey left on that Monday. I was getting back into town on Tuesday. Mikey D, so sorry, man, that we missed, to meet in person. Next time, dinner's on me when you come out. But you continue to do great work, and it's going to be a fun season. And right now, Lakers down by 10, about 1:07 into the fourth quarter, 89-79. This is a Minnesota team, Mikey, that a lot of people, when they saw Rudy Gobert get suspended, they weren't really giving Minnesota a great opportunity to win this game and get that 7 spot, thinking maybe Minnesota still has a good chance to get the 8 spot by beating the winner of the 9-10 game coming up. But what's your take so far on this playing game, and then we'll get to the one from the Eastern Conference. Do you think the Lakers have it in them to come back and win this ball game tonight?
The Lakers do, all season long fight back on their home court, like you mentioned earlier, to come back. But I see Minnesota holding on. Lakers just haven't been hitting the big shot so far to get them back in this game, make it a 5-point game. They've just been trailing in this 8-12 zone. But, yeah, Ken, I was so bummed out. I miss you, too. We came a day off missing each other, but I'm trying to be back in Vegas this summer for Summer League, reaching out to some people now to get credentials for that. So hopefully I'll be, in town for that, and we could meet up for dinner and then live in person on the show. So it's all good, though. You keep going. Sorry about that.
No, I was going to say I always enjoy the Summer League, so that'll be great to have you. And I know it gets a little hot there, but you're either going to be in a nice air-conditioned building or you're going to be in a nice pool or you're going to be hanging out there at Thomas and Mack and, seeing some great Summer League action. And they've had some really good action the last couple of summers, so that'll be fun. It's, the season barely ends, and it seems like you got a few weeks off. Next thing you know, the Summer League's starting up. But great competition. You always get a lot of these solid rookies. And Keegan Murray really getting his feet wet last year in the Summer League after leaving Fran McCaffrey's Iowa Hawkeyes team and really elevating his play for the Sacramento Kings. What's your take on Sacramento? Because they've got a tough go against Golden State, and if somehow they can win that series, and I know it's not going to be easy against Steph and the guys who have been, trying to get healthy all season long to get everybody on the court at the same time. They've got the experience. They've got the title runs. But at the end of the day, it could be such a moving series for Sacramento if somehow, some way, those young Kings can get it done and knock out Golden State. What type of chance you give them?
Man, I see Golden State winning that series in 6 or 7. Really, Sacramento pushing them to their absolute limit because of Sacramento's depth, because of their, insane scoring ability, 1 through 13, 14 deep. And, you put De'Aaron Fox in the fourth quarter of a game, and he'll turn any game around. Down 10, he'll just take over the game and win it for them. So it's going to be a game of depth. It's pretty much whose bench is going to be better. And, I just can't see Steph, Clay, and Draymond and Jordan Poole, got to give him credit, losing in the first round. I think Sacramento's inexperience will come through every now and then and lose them a couple games down the stretch. Because it's playoffs. It's a different monster. Golden State's system is going to be ramped up. Their defense is going to be better than ever. So I see Stephen Curry kind of averaging 32 to 35 in that first-round series and him taking over games to lead them to a 6 or 7 game series win. It's going to be fun. I have that series as number 2 most fun behind Knicks Cavs. Of course, my Knicks out here in New York.
And my Knicks for longer than you, but like I tell you, I'm old enough that I actually got to see him win. You've never seen him win in your lifetime. But let me get back to Sacramento real quick because Sabonis is special. And you talked about De'Aaron Fox. If Kevin Huerter can knock his shots down, his three-point shots, and he's a 40% shooter from behind the arc. Harrison Barnes shoots it well behind the arc as well. There's a couple other guys right there that score 15 a game. Malik Monk has been very consistent, and I mentioned Keegan Murray. Look, everybody's got to play their A game for Sacramento to get some wins. But that's a great atmosphere up there in Sacktown. And if they could just steal one in San Francisco, I think, like you said, I think it could go 7 games.
Yeah, see, the problem with Sacramento is, and I've been watching them all season, they're pretty much all of a sudden my second favorite team to watch in the NBA. If they're not hitting their threes, they kind of go cold because in the interior, all they have is Sabonis there. So, and you got Fox on the drive, who's very good, and some other guys as well. But if their threes aren't knocking down the way they should, their offense just isn't running the way it should. I've bet they're over a few times during the season, and I've gotten burned because their threes weren't hitting, and then they finished with 103 points, which, to them, they're scoring 125 a night, it seems like. So that'll determine outcomes of this game as well. Again, I just think their inexperience will just cost them a few close games. I don't see any blowouts in that series at all because, Sabonis is great inside, and of course the Warriors are going to match the three-point shooting. So it's going to be a really, really good series.
All right, so talk to me now. We've got, of course, Miami losing tonight at home. That's an impressive win, for the Atlanta Hawks. And the Hawks just entering the night, sitting at 500, 41-41. But they had a nice game, and Trae Young was very consistent tonight, very much under control, and they led pretty much wire to wire after getting that big first quarter where they led by 9. They outscored them in the second quarter by 6, so a 15-point halftime lead. Then they had to hold on, but Miami really never got it down under double digits to make that serious run. So I was impressed with Atlanta getting the W. Lakers now have pulled within 3, 89-86, still 8 minutes to go, so they're closing fast on Minnesota. We'll see how this one pans out. And then tomorrow we've got the other two playing games, and that'll be Chicago at Toronto and DeRozan and company going against Siakam and the Raptors. What's your take as far as that game?
It's funny, first thing that comes to my mind, this is like a newer, new generation term, mid. I feel like that's the battle of the mid. Like Atlanta this season is 500 all across the board. Their points differential and points scored. I feel like Atlanta, Chicago, and Toronto all fit that, middle of the pack, quote unquote, mid-tier. So that game, man, it's really tough to judge because if you look at it on paper, they both have pretty good weapons, but they're like both the same team, I feel like, in the same tier of Eastern Conference teams. I feel like DeMar DeRozan is really due. He's facing, his old, faithful franchise, the Toronto Raptors, and I feel like he's going to want to knock them off. DeRozan's been a little cold recently, just kind of averaging around like 20. Meanwhile, we know he's a 25-per-game scorer. So him and Levine, I feel like, could just get the upper hand on Toronto. Nothing really sexy jumps off that game for me. I watch every game, I report on every game, but I'm not all that excited of that matchup.
What about the Thunder and the Pelicans? Because I like this one. I think this is going to be fun because even though Oklahoma City is a couple games under 500, 40-42 regular season, they come to play every night. And I think it's a fun team. I enjoy watching. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just a lot of fun to watch. And you got the two Jalen Williams players that are very consistent as well. What's your take on OKC? Can they go down in the Bayou and get a win?
I really think they can, Ken, because it's funny. I'm 24 years old, and I call that team, a team full of kids because they are. Their average age is like 22 years old, and, Josh Giddey and Lou Dort, other guys on that team who are just make that team just so well-rounded and deep of young talent. They're all just so raw, and they're like, like a baby deer just trying to make their way, but it's all working for the baby deer. They're all coming together as a pack, and they're kind of surprising people this year with Shea at the forefront of it. But don't sleep on New Orleans because Trey Murphy and who's that other defending guard? Slipping my mind right now.
CJ McCollum. Well, you got CJ McCollum has been outstanding, and Brandon Ingram has done his job.
Ingram's been terrific. He's becoming like a point guard all of a sudden. A bunch of 10-plus assist nights, 2 triple-doubles over the last week. So. Yeah, I mean, you get C.J. McCollum dropping 30, Ingram 25 and 10, and Trey Murphy becoming this knockdown three-point shooter all of a sudden, and it'll be close. That's going to be a high-scoring one. Taking the over in that might be the way to go.
There you go. I mean, right now, as we look at it, the last all the games, all 6 games last year, play-in games, they all were unders, and then the first game tonight, an under as well. So just keep that in mind. And
it looks like Minnesota LA is going under too. I saw that was like 135-ish, I think you said.
Yeah. Well, it was 233 and a half. I think was the closing number. Yeah, 233.5 was the closing number. Well, actually, 234 at the Westgate Superbook I'm looking at right now. Circa 233.5, 234 at Caesars out here using the Vegas line. Still 8:15 to go, 89.86. So you're sitting at 175. Yeah, they'd have to really turn up the. But a game like this is scary if you have the under because you're right there, a 3-point game. Anything happens, and if it goes into OT, you know you're shot. So we'll see how it pans out and see if Minnesota can indeed hold on. Right now, if you have the T-Wolves plus the 8 from the get-go, it's been comfortable throughout, but it's tightened up here in the fourth quarter. Ken Thompson, Mikey Domagala, we're talking a little bit NBA basketball. Mikey, before we get rolling, we're going to keep you another segment, but let everybody know a little bit about your work. There's a lot of folks that have heard you before on SportsX Radio, but there's some that haven't. So let everybody know exactly what you've got going on because you've been doing this. And I mean, literally say that you were a kid. You were a kid. You were literally, getting in for under 12 at the movies and you were doing this stuff when you started out. So let everybody know a little bit about the background of Mikey Domagala.
That's true. You got a good memory. So when I was 12 years old, I started the pages NBA Buzz on Facebook, and I've since expanded to Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and pretty much every social media platform you could get, combined following of about 3.5 million. Recently, I've been turning up YouTube a lot. I've been doing a lot of interviews for my podcast, Inside Buzz, which has been going a couple years strong. But I've been doing a lot of man-on-the-street interview segments, especially New York-based teams, but I'm going to be expanding more as the playoffs are here and traveling for the NBA Finals, which will be a lot of fun. So you could follow me on YouTube, at Mikey Domagala, and everything else could be found on NBA Buzz and official NBA Buzz on Instagram and Twitter. Just daily NBA content of, the biggest news, trades, rumors, everything going on in the league. I do not miss an hour of anything. So I'm always on. Right now, I'm watching this game as I'm talking to you, Ken. Computer open, 2 separate posts ready to go of whether it's going to be Grizzlies-Wolves or Grizzlies-Lakers, depending on this outcome. So I'm always grinding, and you could follow me on all those platforms, and I don't miss a beat.
There you go. So, Grizzlies will get the winner of this game because they'll move into the 7th seed, and so that opens it up where Boston now knows that they're going to get the Atlanta Hawks as the 7th seed.
That's not a bad series. Atlanta, like we saw tonight, if their scoring is on, they could match up with pretty much anybody. And Boston, I felt like towards the end of the year, they started living and dying by the 3. I feel like they will tighten up their game plan come playoff time. I mean, they're incredibly deep as well. But I could see Atlanta sneaking 1 or 2 out of them.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You never know. And it's tough for me if I'm sitting in the 7th seed and then all of a sudden I've got to play to get that 7th seed after I know I finished. Like Miami knew that they had that 7th seed, but then they lose to Atlanta. Now they know they've got to win their next game just to get in the playoffs. It's kind of crazy for the Miami Heat. We'll see how all this stuff shakes out after we get the other 2 play-in games tomorrow. New Orleans Pelicans, what type of opportunity do you give them to get into the playoffs?
I can't see that team losing 2 in a row. I mean, even if they lose tomorrow, hypothetically, off the top of my head, I'm kind of forgetting who they would play. But they're deep enough and hungry enough, I feel like, to sneak in. Probably wouldn't get out of the first round if they make it there, but I feel like without Zion, it's a half a win to make the playoffs without him. I saw, surprisingly, he said he's healthy, but he said he doesn't want to play until he feels like Zion Williamson again. Now, to me, if I was running a front office, I'd get his butt on the court. I mean, they're pretty much in need of him right now, even if he is going to give you 18 to 22 minutes just coming back from injury. I mean, that's something you can't pass up. So I don't see New Orleans getting out of the first round, but if Zion could play a little bit, you got to give it a go.
Yeah, no question. I mean, he averaged 26 points. That would be huge. 7 boards on the season as well. And they would get the Lakers if the Lakers could not come back against Minnesota. Minnesota leads it 95-88, but still just under 6 minutes to go. And I believe the Lakers at the line. So we're watching this one as it winds down in Los Angeles. And again, you could have some extra time in that one. Lakers not going away, but they had pulled within 3, 89-86, and then Minnesota a couple threes in the last 3-4 possessions. They were able to can a couple trays and get the lead back up a little bit. But in the NBA, 6-7 point leads disappear in batting of the eye. I was going to say an eyelash, but in the batting of an eye, next thing you know, that lead is gone. And you've seen it happen where there's been 20, 25, 30-point leads this year that have dissipated in a matter of, a quarter. So things happen. Craziness goes on in the NBA, and nothing is safe, especially if you're putting your money on it. You got to be careful. Going to take a break, come back with Mikey D. We're going to look at what's set for the weekend, and now we know it's going to be Boston and Atlanta, so we're still waiting on 3 other series matchups, but we do have some that are in place. We'll get Mikey's expertise. We'll see if he likes anything as far as putting some money on it. I've got some series prices here, and we'll see what he thinks might sound good, see if there's any dogs that he likes. We are live from Vegas, live at PSBR Law Studios. It is SportsX Radio. Mark Hoke running the show, of course, as he does Monday through Friday. The Mark Hoke Show, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Sundays, the best in professional wrestling. You like professional wrestling, you'll love the Mark Hoke Show. It is Ken Thompson. It is guest Mikey Domagala from NBA Buzz. We'll come back. We'll keep talking NBA playoffs. We'll keep you updated on that Laker and T-Wolves game from Los Angeles. 101.5 FM K-Dawn, streaming live on the Odyssey app. We'll be right back. You are listening to SportsX Radio. I'm Ken Thompson, coming right back at you.
I read the paper, I saw the news. All those people out there singing the blues. They get excited, why don't they just relax? All they gotta do is kick back, and be happy. Happy that the whole world is ready to blow.
Yeah, I remember summer school back in the day. Little Danny Elfman, man. A little Oingo Boingo back in the day. Danny Elfman, very talented. Happy summer school track, and yep, KT several times had to do summer school. Not like my good pal that's on the PSBR Law Hotline right now, Mikey Domagala. He's probably one of these straight A students outside of probably really good at math. Doing all the basketball statistics in the back, like all the averages and all the stats and everything. They're like, God, man, this kid's a whiz in math. How does he do it? Amazing. And that's how I used to be good at math. I mean, all the baseball averages and the winning percentages and all that stuff growing up. Mikey, whatever it takes to get those subjects down. I wish I could hand that down to some of the kids that struggle in math, because math's one of those subjects. You either love it or you hate it. And if it wasn't for all those sports statistics, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much as I do. But I know you probably were pretty good in math, were you not?
I wasn't. I really wasn't. And I'll tell you what, I was, like you're saying, I was good at the statistics, short math, and knowing ERAs and averages and, shooting percentages that I come across every night over the years. But, yeah, growing up, I was not good at math. And funny enough, my girlfriend's a high school math teacher. So the things she brings home and tests she grades, it all just looks foreign to me. And, all I need to know is these field goal percentages as I see them cross my mind.
There you go. Update, the Golden Knights up 4-1, just 3:17 to go. It's their final home game. They'll close out the regular season Thursday in Seattle. They lead the Seattle Kraken right now. It's a home and home. They lead at 4-1, again, 3:17 to go third period. Canucks still on top of the Ducks, 3-2, 5:09 to go third period. Those are the only 2 games still going. Bouchard got the overtime goal for the Edmonton Oilers, and after a 1-1 tie after one, nobody scored in the second or third period, but Edmonton does win it, their 8th win in a row, and they're right there knocking on the door. But the Golden Knights, with a win tonight, will go back to 2 points ahead of Edmonton as they look to close out and win the Pacific Division. Both teams only have 1 game remaining after tonight. But 2-1 Oilers do knock off the Colorado Avalanche. Jets beat the Wild 3-1 in Minnesota. Got a late third period goal to put that one away. And the stunner of the night, the Blackhawks knocking off the Penguins. And let me see, I got a text and just got to go to this text because I saw that line up there pretty good. But my buddy Roger Shaw sending me, letting me know that the Penguins closed at some places minus 600. Wow, so that is absolutely crazy. Minus 600, and they lose outright to the Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, and Raj saying, hey, I wonder what the reverse puck line would have been on the Blackhawks, to where if you laid a goal and a half, or even imagine if you laid 2.5 on the Blackhawks and they beat the Penguins 5-2, and they were plus of probably 475, 500, going into the game. Absolutely crazy what you can win sometimes. Sometimes it just pays to play those dogs, because crazier things will happen. All right, keeping things going with Mikey Domagala. Mikey, we've got on Saturday.
It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy here, Ken. You see this Laker game?
Yeah, I'm watching it right here. Oh, wow. I just a ball thrown out of bounds, only about 10 feet too high. Minnesota's starting to feel it a little bit. They're still up 3, but the Lakers have the ball as they roll down 95-92. This is where you sweat it a little bit, because you got to be worried about that overtime if you've got the under like I do. That's why I just hedged back a little bit, but we'll see how this one all pans out. Right now it's tied at 95 with 1:45 to go in the fourth quarter in L.A. The Lakers have come all the way back, and they're going nuts in Los Angeles. So, it's a dead under. It would be the 8th straight under in play-in games going back to last year, if the game does end in regulation, because there's no way they're going to get to 234 or 235 to put it up over any of the closing numbers. But you just never know, and that's the crazy stuff. Again, Minnesota playing without Rudy Gobert, but the game tied at 95, and the T-Wolves have led pretty much wire to wire. But the Lakers actually have the ball right now, and we'll keep an eye on this one as it closes out. Ken Thompson, Mikey Domagala. The Nets and the Sixers. Sixers are huge favorites in this series. You got to lay 855 on Philly to win 100. You lay 100 on Brooklyn to win the series, you get back 605. What's your take on this one? I'm using some of the lines that I've got out here in Vegas as far as these series prices. What's your take? Brooklyn have any chance to knock off Joel Embiid the way he's playing in those Sixers?
I don't think they do. It's another series. It's going to be like Atlanta and Boston. Nets would be lucky to get 2. They'd even be lucky to get 1. I like this Nets team, but Philly's just too much of a powerhouse with Embiid down low. He's really just unstoppable down there. Then there's Harden, there's Maxey, and they got a good bench as well. So I don't see Brooklyn having much of a chance. But shout out to Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and that team. They've really been a lot of fun since they've arrived.
Yeah, and the Lakers and T-Wolves, neither team can hit, as missed three-pointer by Minnesota. Both teams missing shots, and this one, it's getting tense, and now a steal by Minnesota. So it's just, getting a little crazy. You're just wondering who's going to score next. Here, Karl Anthony Towns thinking about it. Now here comes a 3 for Minnesota, and it's no good. Both teams, you can feel it, that they're both struggling right now. Nobody wants to take the shot as they go down to 35 seconds left in regulation. In this fourth quarter, Minnesota is 3 of 16. The Lakers are 4 of 17. My goodness, you can't shoot much worse than that. I would think that whoever knocks down the next shot going to win. That's not going out on the limb too far there, KT. But awaiting the winner, of course, will be the Memphis Grizzlies. The loser of this game, Minnesota and the Lakers, will then get the winner of OKC and New Orleans, and they'll have to win that game just to get back into that number 8 seed. So Cavaliers, they're minus 220. The Knicks are plus 180. I'm with you. I'm hoping the Knicks can knock off the Cavs, but boy, Mitchell and Cleveland, they're going to be tough for New York. I do like the way the Knicks played. I know they dropped their last 2, but still pretty consistent. Randall was outstanding pretty much all season long. What's your take? Barrett had a nice year. What's your take on the Knickerbockers?
Oh, I can't wait for the series, and I feel like I think you said minus 220. That's a little disrespectful for the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks this year have gotten the better hand of Cleveland. Just at the end of the year, when I was in Vegas, actually, Mitchell and Brunson, had that crazy matchup of both scoring 40. Knicks got the win, high-scoring game. I see a lot of that, a lot of Mitchell versus Brunson type matchups in the playoffs. But don't sleep on these Knicks. They're really, really buying into Tom Thibodeau's system. And with Brunson at the helm and Randall playing efficient basketball and not overshooting, not overplaying iso ball, they got a chance. They really do, Ken. And it all is on the shoulders of Jalen Brunson. If he's not playing good, they're not winning that series. And I have faith in him that, he'll play efficient basketball and average about 25 in the series. And I think they could do it. I think they could do it in 6.
A lot of question marks, though, too. The ankle of Randall banged up. They're hoping they can, get good quality minutes out of him. Grimes has done a pretty good job. Obi Toppin has come a long way as well. Mitchell Robinson's going to have to stay out of foul trouble. Yeah, Quickly is going to have to step up, but Brunson's going to have to be the catalyst for sure. And then, McBride and Sims, those guys are going to be, going to have to do their part as far as role players. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat Cleveland. It's just
it's not going to be easy.
And I know they've had the better of it regular season, but something just tells me with Donovan Mitchell, and I know he's a little bit banged up, him and Darius Garland, but they've got players. Evan Mobley is solid. Followed him over at SC, and Jared Allen. Levert, very solid. Rubio coming off the bench. You always like having a nice point guard off the bench as well. Boy, I'm just going to say, as much as I love the Knicks and I'm rooting for them, but I'll say Cleveland in 6.
Okay. I mean, listen, come on. I'd be a fool to argue at that or say, oh, it's impossible, because Mobley and Jared Allen is going to be an absolute headache for those big men. I mean, Mitchell Robinson, great defender, but like you said, if he's in foul trouble, you got those two going against Isaiah Hartenstein, who, above average center, pretty good bench piece, but he will have a nightmare handling those two. But trying to contain Donovan Mitchell will be the whole thing. But then again, there's Darius Garland at the 1. So everywhere you turn is a problem. But I got confidence in these Knicks. They play system basketball. Josh Hart has really, really been a catalyst in this team, and their defense and their energy has just been, the highest it's ever been with him on the floor.
All right, Paul George, he's been out for a bit for the Clips, and the Clippers are going to be taking on the Suns. They'll start that series on Sunday, and because of the uncertainty on, whether George is going to be able to come back, not going to be good. It looks like he's going to miss the first round. At least the start. It says to be sidelines for the start of the first round is the last I saw, and that was yesterday. They said he'd miss probably at least the first 2 games. Right now, Phoenix is a minus 540 to win 100. The Clippers plus 395 if you bet 100 on them to win the series. What about it? Clippers and Suns. We know that KD is starting to get acclimated to playing now with Chris Paul, and Chris, who's gone the longest of any active player without winning a title. Tons of playoff action, but, not getting that elusive championship. And then last year, the way they got blown out by Dallas and Luka in that final game in Phoenix is a taste in their mouth that they never want to feel again. So your take on Phoenix and the Clippers, I think the Suns, you're going to get their best effort, and the combination of Durant and Booker is just, second to none in the league right now.
It really is. And I see that team really coasting through the playoffs. If they make a Western Conference Finals or the Finals, I feel like they're going to hit a wall. And the wall would be just being out-depth. Say they face a Milwaukee, say they face a Denver in the Western Conference Finals. I just don't see Phoenix's bench doing enough for them. KD playing heavy minutes, you never know if he'll re-injure or retweak something, you don't know. But that team is still so fresh because KD has been injured for so long. I think they played 8 or 9 games. Of course, they won all of them with KD. But again, just so fresh. So that chemistry is still starting, to click. And there will be some valleys they're going to have to go down and fight out of in this playoffs. I could see them taking out the Clippers in probably 6. I mean, without Paul George, this team is still pretty good. That Clippers team, Kawhi, Westbrook stepping up. And they're deep in them in their own right. Norman Powell, one of my favorite players, 6th Man of the Year potential there. And, it's just a team who could win it all, but we'll see. And Ken, I don't want to spoil anything, but Dennis Schroeder just hit a big shot for these Lakers. It's getting spicy over here.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. You knew that you could feel that the Lakers.
I'm a little ahead of you.
Yeah, you could feel the Lakers would come back from the dead, and 90. Was that a 3 to go up 98-95? Okay, so 98-95 with 10 seconds to go is what I'm seeing right now. And a baseline jumper, that's my favorite shot. He's not complete baseline, but he's real close over there in the corner. That's definitely my favorite shot. If you can work it over to KT and less than 2 seconds to go, they'll look at the clock. Minnesota will have a timeout and come out of the timeout. And then, with only 1.4, if they leave it the way it is, it's hard to, because the guy is going to be shooting as he's getting the ball. So in the NBA, it's real tough to go out and try and foul someone without them being in the act of shooting, because with 1.4, they're going to be in the act of shooting as they get the ball. So it's just what type of play can Minnesota draw up to where they're able to get a shot off and a decent look at a three? Can they get any type of screen or any type of decent look? And the Lakers, of course, do not want to foul. Crazier things have happened. We saw it happen in a college tournament right here in Las Vegas with the WAC semifinal. That was Utah Valley State. End up losing to Southern Utah on a 4-point play with less than 2 seconds to go. So it can happen. You just got to be careful. When you're able to get the ball at half court, it gives you a better opportunity to get that shot off. So we'll see how things pan out. But it looks like the Lakers have avoided having to play just to keep their season alive. And what it'll do is send Minnesota it'll put the Lakers in against Memphis, which will be very interesting, especially what's transpired with in some of those matchups earlier in the year with Ja Morant and his dad and just crazy stuff over there in L.A. It'll be an interesting series with Memphis and the Lakers. And then you've got, of course, Denver awaiting who will get the winner. They'll get the winner of if Minnesota has to play the winner of New Orleans and Oklahoma City, and that game is tomorrow night. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Real quick, Milwaukee, the 1 seed over there in the East, and they're going to either get Miami or the winner of Chicago-Toronto. That game will be tomorrow, so the winner of Chicago-Toronto will have to play at Miami, and then whoever wins that game will get the 8th seed, and Sunday they will have to go to Milwaukee. Anybody going to get in the way of Giannis out of those teams? I mean, Miami's dangerous. And Toronto, I don't see Chicago if they knock out Toronto. But I think Miami or Toronto could give Milwaukee at least a game or two, maybe steal a game or two. But this Milwaukee team, the way Jrue Holiday's playing, and Giannis is just Giannis. I mean, this team is just loaded. And it's going to be hard-pressed for anybody to beat them. But it is the NBA, and you can't take things for granted, as I talked about, last year with Dallas knocking out the Phoenix Suns in that Game 7. Not even a contest. I mean, Luka had as many points at halftime as 27 as the Phoenix Suns had.
No doubt about it. I don't see anybody beating Giannis right now. And that Bucks team is so deep. Oh, my God. Brook Lopez just stepping up phenomenally. Bobby Porter's playing like a sixth man of the year. But Ken, oh my God, I feel like that little kid in the classroom who's always distracted by everything. The NBA just NBA'd. Anthony Davis closed out on a three-pointer in the corner, barely stepped on Mike Conley's foot, sent him to the line, and Ken, those over bettors are feeling good because we're heading to overtime, my man.
Unbelievable. It is 98-98. Mike Conley, I mean, they're calling that more than ever as far as where you where you follow through and yes, and I get it. It can happen. And I know that back in the day, there was concern as far as injuries, where guys would have their foot, like knowing where that three-point shooter was going to come down. And when they came down, if they were elevated somewhat, they'd come down, they'd twist an ankle. And so they tried to do away with that to take away from any potential damaging injuries. But instead, you're getting some of these ticky-tack calls. Here's Mike Conley. He gets, again, it's a follow-through deal. He gets fouled. But got to give him credit. He had to go to the line and make all three, and he nailed all three. They are tied at 98. They'll head to overtime from Los Angeles. Mikey Domagala, I'm going to be connecting with you each and every week now as we're set for the NBA playoffs. I'll work it around your schedule. Thank God you're a night owl. When I was back east, I was like you, man. I'd be up past midnight if there were games from the West Coast, and sometimes I suffered the next day if I had to work early. But, is what it is. This is part of your job, and you know what? I'm glad you're getting paid for staying up late, and it'll be great to have you in the upcoming weeks throughout the NBA playoffs, Mikey D.
As always, Ken, it's always a pleasure staying up and watching these games, talking about them live as they're happening and as I'm live reporting on them. So it's always a pleasure. And anytime, I'm just a text away, as you know, and I'll hop on any midnight for you because I'm up doing my thing anyway.
There you go. Okay, so let everybody know real quick how to find you and follow you every which way.
Sure. Follow NBA Buzz on Facebook, at official NBA Buzz on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And subscribe to Mikey Domagala on YouTube for all exclusive NBA interviews with all different kind of personnel and Hall of Famers who I've had on the show. More content coming soon. I will be at the NBA Finals doing some man-on-the-street interviews and some media. So follow me there on YouTube so you don't miss anything.
Outstanding stuff, Mikey D. We'll talk to you soon, buddy. Talk to you next week for sure. God bless. Have a great weekend. Mikey D, stay busy, man, because I know you're going to be over the next several weeks.
All right, Ken. Talk soon.
There you go. Great stuff, Mikey D. Take our final break of the evening. Come back. Get you caught up on the Richard Badge and Findlay Toyota out-of-town scoreboard. Everything final except for this T-Wolves-Lakers game. Again, overtime about to start from Los Angeles. Tied at 98. We'll see how things pan out. Live from Vegas, live PSBR Law Studios, 101.5 FM KDAWN. Streaming live on that Odyssey app. Ken Thompson, producer Mark Hoke. Come back. Wrap the show up. You're listening to Sports X Radio. We'll be right back.